Where's the mic? So, oh, cool. Oh,
It's adjustable. It's adjustable.
So, a lot to read through there. Sorry. I like long passages. We're looking at this from here, this day and age, from the Christian perspective, and understanding that we can see God being merciful even in the times when he is pronouncing his judgments. And we can see a few things here in Lot, how Lot responds. First off, we can see how he responded when the angels told him. He didn't hide, and he didn't doubt them. He trusted them. He said, okay, the angels told me this is going to happen, it's going to happen. He went and he found the rest of his family, his sons-in-law, and made it his business to warn them, even though it was probably a death sentence for him to go outside. We saw how the people in Sodom wanted to kill him. And going outside for Lot would have been a death sentence, but he still made it his point to go out and find his family and tell them that this is coming. God's not bluffing, and this judgment will happen. And that whoever's left inside, well, they're going down off the ship. And he seems to really care about his family. I mean, he puts himself at risk to warn them. You know, like any of us would do if we knew the city around us was about to burn down. We'd go and warn them, wouldn't we? I'd hope everyone here would. If not, I know who to hunt after I burn. But we can also see not everyone believed him. And for one, as a Christian, I personally can relate to this. When you try to talk to people, not everyone will believe, and you wonder what could be going through their heads at that moment. Did they think Lot was just joking? Just trying to pull a prank on them, you know? Oh, hey, God's going to burn down the city. Oh, good one, Lot. Did they think that maybe he'd gone crazy? Too much time out in the sun spent working. Not enough time inside. Sun done fried his brain. Or could they have thought Lot didn't even know what he was talking about? Maybe he didn't even know God. They thought he was just trying to scare them, but not in a prankster way, but as a do what I say because I say so way. A lot of people these days think of God, they don't focus on the judgment. They tend to ignore the judgment that's coming for all of us. There's an argument that says a loving God wouldn't do such a horrible thing, that he wouldn't judge. They call God a loving father, but they forget what that means. In his book, The Problem of Pain, C.S. Lewis says that people, most of the days, they don't want God as a loving father, more concerned with safety and your well-being. They want him more as a senile grandfather up in the sky, more worried about your happiness and whether you're having fun at any cost. Instead of worrying about, is it good for you? Is it safe? They're more worried, well, as long as they have fun. And they expect God to just look the other way when these things happen. Because shouldn't whether we're having fun be his real concern? Wrong. You can look at it like this. Jesus used a lot of parables to teach. I like to also. So, bear with me here. How many of you in here have kids? Hands up. Let's see them. Wait, I didn't think of that. I didn't think that through.
Nice try, Eddie.
Okay, but a lot of you have kids. At least there's a lot of kids. Now let me ask you this. Parents, if your kid, now I'm not accusing anyone in here of doing this, but if your kid stole money from your purse or wallet, hey, no names, to buy something they wanted, would you look the other way?
No.
Because it made them happy?
No.
You still want to sit down.
Or would you punish them for doing it?
Punish.
And that's God's relationship with us. When we step out, when we cross that line, because he loves us, he has to do it. He doesn't enjoy it. Peter said God doesn't enjoy what happens, but he does it. Now, kids and people my age, let me ask you this. When your parents punish you, you get mad, don't you? Oh, they don't have the right to punish me. They did the same thing when they were growing up.
Right.
I was that way. When my parents punished me, I was like, well, how dare you? I am nowhere near as bad as you were growing up.
You never said to my face.
No, but I said it behind your back. But when I got older, I realized that your parents punish you because they care. Because they want to make sure you're on the right path. They don't want you to mess up, to make those same mistakes. And they teach you from your mistakes. And now, obviously, God doesn't make mistakes. But it's the same with him. He wants, as our Father, he wants to teach us, to guide us down that right path. Going back to my first point, though, whatever the reason was that his family didn't believe him, it doesn't matter what the reason was at the end of the day. Were they crazy? Did they just not care? Did they think Lot was crazy? It doesn't matter at the end of the day. They stayed, and we know how that story ended. They burned. Which leads me to my second point that I really want to stress. We're all expecting some great sign to come before the judgment happens. We're expecting God to do something great. We're just putting it off, though. How many of us say this? How many people have said this? Let me get through this problem, then I'll worry about God.
We all do.
Let me deal with what I'm going through before I worry about God. Or, oh, if God cared about if God cared about me, he'd get me out of this problem. He would get me out of it. Or, even worse, get me out of the problem I got myself into. I'm guilty of that one. I could go on and on, but my point is, we're waiting for him to open the heavens and shout at us before we'll listen. And even if he did, most of us just wouldn't. Like I said, we expect God to just turn the other way, or we expect some great sign. Lot was already living in Sodom, for we don't know how long he was living there. But we know that he was a good man, because God spared him. We know that by the time the angels came there, Lot had been living there for a while. But the people that lived there, they didn't want anything to do with it. They had a good person with them to teach them the right way, but they didn't want to do it. And when Lot said something, when Lot spoke up, they accused him of judging them. Stop me if you've heard this one before. Oh, those judgy Christians. I'm sure we've heard it. Oh, those judgy Christians. How dare they? How dare you talk to me like that? Oh, I remember hearing that one plenty. We can't just keep waiting for a sign. We have that responsibility here and now to do what Lot what Lot was doing, to help the others. And we'll expect we always have time, but we don't know. We think we do. We don't. Lot didn't have a calendar in his house and was marking it down. All right, I've got a year, 5 months, 3 days, 6 hours, and 17 minutes until the angels are coming. I got that long to do things. Lot didn't know. No one knew. And Jesus said, I'm going to read this to you guys, because Jesus said this, and as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it also be in the days of the Son of Man. They did eat, they drank, they married wives, they were given in marriage, until the day that Noah entered into the ark, and the flood came, and destroyed them all. Likewise also, as it was in the days of Lot, they did eat, they drank, they bought, they sold, they planted, they builded. But the same day that Lot went out of Sodom, it rained fire and brimstone from heaven, and destroyed them all. Even thus shall it be in the day when the Son of Man is revealed. There's going to come a point where it's going to be too late. Me and the kids talked about the flood a few weeks ago in class, and I can't take credit for this saying I picked up somewhere, but I'll just share it with you now. How many people do you think when that flood started, how do you think they reacted? How many people do you think were pounding on that ark, begging Noah, please just open the door and let us in? How many people were pounding, begging, we'll stop, please, open the door, we're drowning out here? Or how many people, when Sodom was going down, were saying, well, why didn't Lot take us with him? We'll stop, just please stop the fire. It was too late. Once that door closes, you can't reopen it. And maybe you're Noah or Lot in this analogy, and I hope everyone in here is. I hope so. And that would be great if it was. But let me ask you this, if you're Noah or Lot, are you going to go alone? If you're running from the burning city, are you running alone? Or are you trying to bring as many people with you as you possibly can? I'm hoping, like I said, everyone is in here. Who's in here is like that. But I'm sure, I can't see it, but I'm sure there's some empty seats here and there. I'm sure you've got someone in your phone you haven't invited to church. God's calling you to bring them out before the fire falls, so to speak. You can't run out of the city and then look back. Too late then. Which brings me to the next point, which is looking back. And yeah, this is going to get kind of salty, so bear with me. Lot and his family were told one simple rule. Don't look back. Don't look at Sodom. And Lot's wife decided she didn't want to listen. Again, we can speculate why. Maybe she had friends in Sodom she felt bad for. Maybe she had some item she left behind. She's like, maybe I can go back and get it. Maybe it hasn't reached our old house yet. I can go back and get some personal trinket or another. Or maybe she didn't actually believe either that it was going to happen to Sodom. Or that if something was happening to Sodom, maybe she didn't believe it would happen to her. And this applies to us today because how many of us has God brought out of that burning city? How many of us has God saved? But you keep throwing a casual look back over your shoulder. And you justify it. You say, well, one look can't hurt. Got a couple of ideas here, just one more drink, one more party, one more whatever. It can't hurt, can it? It's nothing big. But it can. Because then that one becomes another one, and another one, and another one. And eventually you're right back to where you started. When you're told not to look back, God means it. And in this instance, looking back means going back for who we used to be before we became Christians. So stop looking back. Run away from that. Run, sprint, because it's coming after you, and you don't want to be caught up in that. Can you run forward if you keep throwing looks over your shoulder like this? Not that well. I can't even see, and even if I try to turn my head repeatedly while running, I'll trip and fall. It knocks off my balance. And it's the same here. And another thing, why would you risk it? I used to be that person. I used to keep throwing those looks back after I became a Christian. I kept saying, well, this never hurt me before. Why is it going to start now? It doesn't matter. There was no good arguments for me. What would happen if Jesus had come back before I got my act together? Before I straightened up? No good argument, no twisting around words. wasn't going to say something cute to get out of it. There's no apologizing for it. Because by the time, like I said, by the time that judgment comes, it's too late. Just like it was for Sodom, just like for Noah's neighbors, and just like for Lot's wife. First drop of water falls, that first flame ignites. And when Jesus comes back, it's too late then. Time's up. Are you going to let yourself be caught like that? Are you going to let yourself fall behind? Paul compared it to running a race. And I'm very competitive, so for me, when I run, I run for the fun of it, but I also run to compete. Those of you who run 5Ks with me know sometimes I'll sit there and say, all right, I gotta beat this person from the core. Hi, Cassidy. So I'm very competitive. And that's how we should be in our Christian walk. You should refuse in this life, in this run with God, you refuse to take second place. Maybe that's been you. And if it is, I'm not trying to beat you over the head with it. I'm stressing its importance, but I'm not trying to make you feel bad. I'm not trying to tear you down. I'm trying to build you up. And you can leave it. But, and this is something people had to repeatedly tell me, if you decide to leave it, don't pick it back up. If you decide to let go of whatever it is that you've been holding on to, leave it behind. And leave it here. Bury it. And don't let yourself, if you know there's something that you have to leave behind, don't let yourself leave this room before you do. You might not get another chance. Hate to be so blunt, but you might not. We don't know how much time we have left. And God is calling here and now, not when it's convenient for you. I want to leave you with this, something that God put on my heart to share, and it's from Deuteronomy. It says, I call heaven and earth to record this day against you, that I have set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Therefore choose life, that both thou and thy seed may live, that thou mayest love the Lord thy God, and that thou mayest obey his voice, and that thou mayest cleave unto him. For he is thy life and the length of thy days, that thou mayest dwell in the land which the Lord sware unto thy fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, to give them. God is calling you today to choose to live. And are you going to choose to live, or are you going to choose to die? Those are your only options. Very blunt. Normally I'd apologize for being so blunt, but I think it works here. And so I hope it sticks with you. I hope that I've said something up here that isn't just me prattling on for I don't know how long I've been doing this. But I hope it's not just me prattling on. I hope it's not something you'll forget as soon as I walk off or as soon as you leave. I hope that I've said something that can stick with you. And lastly, I'd like to pray with you guys, and then we'll go from there. Okay, I don't want to hit it when I bend down. Oh, that's loud. Go back into that. Father, thank you for this day. Lord, thank you for your mercy that you show to your servants. Lord, that even though we know judgment is coming, and it is, and we know it, but that you have provided a way out for us. And Lord, now I just ask that to each and every one of us who is running away from that burning city, that you will remind us to not look back. Lord, I just ask that you will help us to bury whatever it is we're leaving behind. Help us to leave it behind for good, and not to dig it up again later on when times get rough. Lord, these next few months are going to be a trial for all of us. I can feel it. I just ask that you remind us that you promised never to leave us. You said you would never leave us and that you would be with us always. And Lord, I just ask that we would remember that now. I pray for this core, for all of us here in this room, that we will continue to walk in faith and that we will choose to live and not die. And I ask all this in Jesus' name. Amen.